What is up, you guys? I'm Charmx. Today I'm going to be reacting to what if Earth started rotating backwards right now by real life lore. Now, I personally don't know what would happen, but I know the Earth's spinning at like a really fast rate, every second. And if it were to all of a sudden just reverse, not have any time to slow down and then reverse, just automatically reverse, I think we would all go flying in like the direction we were initially spinning in. Just because of, I forget what it's called, but, if you're moving in a certain direction, if you're lying on top of a car and it's going at like 100 miles an hour and the car stops, you're still gonna go flying off of it because you're still traveling at the initial rate of the car. If that makes sense. I forget what it's called, but I assume that would happen with the Earth, but I guess we're gonna find out. Anyway, with that being said, the original link's in the description. Make sure you guys go subscribe to Real Life Lore. Without any further ado, let's begin.
Right now, as you're listening to my voice and watching this video, you're flying around in space at a speed you probably don't realize because of the way the Earth rotates. If you're standing on the equator, then you'd be traveling at a speed of 1,670 kilometers per hour from west to east.
What's that in miles? Like, I don't know, what's the conversion? Either way, that's like definitely over 1,000 miles an hour, which that's really freaking fast.
Or counterclockwise, as viewed from above the North Pole. Every planet in the solar system rotates in this direction, except for Uranus and Venus. So, Earth has been rotating pretty normally, all things considered. But we know that it's gradually slowing down at a rate of about 2.3 milliseconds per century. Therefore,
2.3 milliseconds per, 100 years? That's nothing. That's nothing. Milliseconds, not even seconds.
For a day on Earth today in 2019 is roughly 2 milliseconds shorter than a day was back in 1919. Eventually, billions of years from now, Earth will cease rotating entirely, but Earth will probably never begin rotating in the opposite direction like Venus does. But just for fun, what would happen if it did, like right now? The easy answer is that everybody would probably just die from whiplash and getting flung around.
Yeah, that's probably the easiest answer. Is that all of a sudden getting thrown in the opposite direction? People would just fly. It would be so bad. Also, the waves. The ocean is also traveling at that same speed. But if you were all of a sudden reverse it, the waves that would happen would be like that'd be insane tsunamis. Like it would wipe out everything.
Around at thousands of kilometers per hour if it just happened immediately. But that's kind of boring, so let's imagine in fantasy land that nobody dies and it just starts happening. How would society and your daily life be affected? Let's start with the immediate effects. Every satellite in orbit right now would be immediately obsolete because they're functioning on the assumption that, something stupid like this won't happen. Imagine if every satellite was orbiting Earth in the wrong direction, and that's the consequence that we'd be dealing with. So GPS and cell services would probably be pretty majorly disrupted for a while. Time zones as we know them would also be pretty messed up. Humanity rather arbitrarily drew lines across.
I don't know if time zones would be that messed up. Yeah, because time zones are based on like these lines coming down. Each of these is a time zone, I think. And this would still be the same, right? The Earth would be spinning a different direction, but these like lines would still be here. So I don't know.
The Earth surface and decided that this mess is how we measure time across the planet. Under the current system, a new day begins at 12 a.m. just to the west of the international dateline here, and continues
why is it so squiggly?
Westward for 24 hours until reaching the eastern side of the dateline on the other side, once Earth makes an entire rotation. If Earth pulled a switcheroo and began rotating in the opposite direction, this would completely change.
It doesn't have to change. If we created the lines, we can just keep them there, right? It can all stay the same. I don't think this has anything to do.
The sun would rise in the west and set in the east, and the time of day would...
Oh, I guess that's true. So that would change everything. Oh, well. I was gonna say, you can keep the times the same. However, you'd be getting up at weird hours of the day, and everything would be different, but you can keep the times the same.
Therefore, have to flow from the east of the international dateline. The first big cities to celebrate the new year would be Honolulu and Anchorage, while North America would be the first continent, and New Zealand would be the last significantly populated place to get a chance to celebrate. But a lot more would change on the surface of Earth over time than just, well, time. The seasons of Earth wouldn't change because those are determined by Earth's axial tilt and not her rotation. However, Earth's climate would gradually change over time dramatically because that is influenced by her rotation. As the planet rotates, the push and pull of its sheer momentum decides the direction of the ocean's currents. Along with atmospheric wind flows, this
Yeah, I'm just saying, if the Earth were to turn the opposite direction, all of a sudden, it would create such huge tsunamis, because the water would then be also traveling in the wrong direction, so it would go like, wow! It'd be horrible. But I guess, yeah, if the water didn't do that, and just laid normal, I don't know what would happen.
This is what produces the range of climate patterns that we see across the Earth's surface. If you change the direction of Earth's rotation, all of this changes in some pretty wild ways. Let's talk about Europe first. One of the most important ocean currents in the world is the Gulf Stream, which carries warm ocean water from the Gulf of Mexico and Florida up to Western Europe. Combined with the jet stream winds, which carry clouds and rainwater from Canada to Northern Europe, the European continent in our normal spinning world is a warmer and wetter place than it otherwise would be. If Earth's rotation reversed, this would be totally different. Based on a computer simulation that was run in 2018,
Someone actually did a computer simulation of this? Why? I mean, sure, it's interesting, but it's like, why? It just seems like a waste of
the
time.
European Geosciences Union General Assembly, Western Europe would be a much colder and snowier place that would be about 10 degrees Celsius lower on average, and would more resemble the climate of Russia today, while the UK
Oh boy, that'd be rough.
and Ireland would be really, really colder and would more resemble northern Alaska and Canada. These changes would take place gradually over time, but would be quick on a geological timescale. The computer simulation produced these results after only 7,000 years into the future. But every other
Oh, that's still a long time.
continent in the world would suffer from extreme climate change as well, perhaps none more so than Africa and the Middle East. With changing wind patterns and ocean currents shifting to North Africa
Well, would they all of a sudden be like really cold?
in the Middle East, the deserts would disappear. The entire Sahara would vanish, replaced by a dense green forest that would stretch across the entire Middle East as well.
That'd be interesting to see, because although, like, let's say it does get really cold or whatever, there's still no grass seed there or tree seed. It'd still all be just dirt, like dust, dirt. Even though if it could grow stuff, if there are no seeds for stuff to grow, it's not gonna grow. So it might just be, instead of a desert, it might be cold or a nice climate, but at the same time, I don't know if anything would actually be growing there. Or it would take a long time, because this would eventually creep upwards, right? But it would take so long for it to creep up to cover this whole area.
North Africa and the Middle East would more resemble the climates of France and Germany today, with milder climates and a lot of rainfall. The Mediterranean Sea would almost become a freshwater lake with a tremendously increased amount of rainfall in the area. The outback desert in Australia also vanishes under these conditions, replaced with a vast interior steppe.
Sounds like it almost benefits a lot of people. Like, sure, a couple countries get really cold, but you compare them to the size of, like, the countries that are benefiting from, like, the desert turning into all green. Like, it seems like it would almost be better?
Interestingly, it appears that the climates of Western and Eastern Australia will switch places, with more grasslands and rainfall in the west and more arid steppes in the east.
Oh, maybe it doesn't help that much.
Pretty much every major desert in the world today vanishes, but new deserts pop up in some unexpected areas where they haven't ever existed before. Like, for example, North America. The entire southern US, from Texas to Florida to North Carolina, is transformed into a vast, hot, arid desert that resembles the climate of Iraq or Saudi Arabia today.
Okay, I was saying, oh, well, this change might be good, but then seeing as it would also wipe out a lot of other goods, so yeah, maybe it's just, maybe it balances everything out, you know?
West Coast, on the other hand, gets significantly colder and snowier and more resembles the climate of Quebec today. South America also changes dramatically. The new largest desert in the world is located here across modern-day Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, and Paraguay. This great South American desert effectively becomes the new world's
Is this all the computer simulation said would happen?
Sahara, with another vast desert in the north covering much of Colombia, Venezuela, and Guyana. South America becomes the world's most desert-covered continent, with what remains of the Amazon rainforest in between. And finally, there's Asia. India mostly remains the same, while China changes significantly. A vast desert similar to the Gobi in Mongolia pops up across the entire southeast. Much of Southeast Asia surrounding this desert, like northern Vietnam, becomes an arid steppe. Manchuria becomes a warmer place with...
What's an arid steppe? Is that a desert, or what the frick is an arid steppe? I don't know.
Forests and rain, while Kamchatka in Russia weirdly transforms into a pretty mild place, with a lot less cold and snow than the rest of Russia. If the world started spinning backwards today, everything about our way of lives, from time to geography, would change dramatically. With less desert coverage overall, global temperatures will cool slightly by about 0.2
Oh, so it'd actually be better for there'd be less desert. So maybe it would be better in the end. I don't know.
degrees Celsius. It's impossible to predict exactly what kind of an influence this would have on history. I'll leave that discussion down for the comments.
Well, history is history. That's not going to change, you know? You can't change the past. The past is going to be the same, but the future, who knows?
But either way, it's fascinating to think about how a seemingly simple thing like the direction of Earth's rotation can have such an enormous impact on both history and society.
Anyway, I hope you guys like this video. I think it's really cool. But yeah, if the Earth were to just all of a sudden start turning backwards, one, everything would fly, all the people would fly in the direction they were initially going. Right? And everything on Earth would boom. And the oceans, which were also traveling in a certain direction, if the Earth were all of a sudden spin backwards, the oceans, it would cause massive, like, tidal waves, and it would wipe out, like, everything. But, anyway, I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you're new, hit subscribe to the family. Make sure you guys go subscribe to Real Life Lore as well. And, yeah, I like this. I think I'd rate it out of a 10, probably at, like, maybe a 7. But, yeah, with that being said, I'll see you guys next time. Boop!